I have said these things to you so that by means of me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take courage. I have conquered the world. Here, Jesus is assuring us that no matter what tribulation we may be facing, it is possible for us to conquer the world just as he did. We can conquer the world in two ways. The first is by conquering pride. Jesus taught his followers how to conquer pride by being humble and willing to serve others. Doing that is not a sign of weakness, because Jesus was humble and willing to serve others. Turn with me now to Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 25. Here, we'll see a situation developing where the apostles were having a dispute, or really an argument among themselves over who was greatest. And instead of simply reminding them that he was the Christ, notice how Jesus kindly corrects them. Again, Luke 22, starting in verse 25. But he said to them, the kings of the nations lord it over them, and those having authority over them are called benefactors. You, though, are not to be that way, but let the one who is the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the one taking the lead as the one ministering. Right now, because of pride, many try to establish their greatness by lording it over others, or by seeking titles for themselves. But here, Jesus is teaching us that true greatness comes from ministering to others, serving others. If we're going to conquer pride, we need to follow Jesus' example of humility and kindness. We need to be willing to serve others exactly as he was. And there are two ways that we can do that. The first is we have to resist the desire for personal prominence, because this desire originates from the world. We also make sure that we don't imitate any popular athletes or celebrities of this world, because their focus is not on serving Jehovah and ministering to others. When we do that, then we can conquer pride. But there's something else we need to conquer as well, and that's hatred. Right now in the world, fear, ignorance, and prejudice cause divisions in the world. And these things and more lead to hatred. In contrast though, self-sacrificing love unites Jesus' true followers. I want to read to you the experience of a brother named Daniel Lacolo from Indonesia as he describes what happened to him one night on April 14th, 1989. And this experience can be found in the 2016 yearbook of Jehovah's Witnesses. He was conducting the meeting one day in his home when government officials burst into the home and arrested him and 3 others. Notice what happens next. The guards at the local prison tried to force us to salute the flag. When we refused, they beat us and kicked us and made us stand in the blistering sun for 5 days. We shivered at night on hard cement floors in our tiny cells, filthy, exhausted, and aching from our wounds. The prison warden repeatedly urged us to compromise, but we replied, until we die, we will not salute. Like countless Christians before us, we felt privileged to suffer for the sake of righteousness. No matter what happened to Brother Lacola, we know that Jehovah approved of the choice that he made. When we choose to remain no part of the world, we're also choosing to be hated by the world because of our Bible-based beliefs and practices. But even though we may face this kind of hate, we do not respond with hate, because that's not what Jesus did. Instead, we do our best to practice genuine self-sacrificing love, because that kind of love can conquer hatred. But developing that kind of love does not happen overnight. If we're going to conquer hatred, we need to study the Bible. Studying the Bible will help us to learn everything that Jesus and Jehovah taught about love. How we should love each other. How we should love even our enemies. When we do that, then we can conquer hatred. By conquering pride and hatred, we can conquer the world. But if we're going to conquer the world, there's an important quality we need, and that's faith. Turn with me to 1 John chapter 5, verse 3 through 4. Again, 1 John 5, 3 and 4. For this is what the love of God means, that we observe his commandments, and yet his commandments are not burdensome, because everyone who has been born from God conquers the world. And this is the conquest that has conquered the world, our faith. Faith is essential if we're going to conquer the world. We need to have faith that right now, Jesus is ruling as a king in heaven. We need to have faith that very soon, he will destroy this world that Satan controls. Having that kind of faith will allow us to remain firm in our resolve to observe or obey God's commandments. That is how we conquer the world. It's important for us all to remain no part of the world, because as said, very soon this wicked world will be destroyed. Very soon the ruler of this world will no longer be able to mislead mankind. For thousands of years, Satan has been misleading mankind. But the Bible shows us that Jehovah has set the day for when he says, enough is enough. We can see the evidence of that in 1 John again, chapter 2, verse 17. Again, 1 John 2, 17. Furthermore, the world is passing away, and so is its desire. But the one who does the will of God remains forever. Because we're living in Satan's world, it can seem permanent and real, because many of the challenges that we're facing are real, but they are also temporary. Anything that this world offers us is temporary. But notice how the verse says, the one that does the will of God can remain forever. In other words, those that choose to do God's will can remain forever or have the hope of everlasting life. So make it your resolve to always do the will of God. If you haven't already, make it your resolve to study the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses. We've talked a lot this morning about how important it is to study the Bible. And if you don't know where to start, you can ask any of Jehovah's Witnesses here today, and they'll be happy to help. But many here today have already made it their resolve to remain no part of the world and do God's will. So if you have, we commend you, because it's not easy. It's a struggle. Many here today have been struggling for decades. But no matter how long your struggle has been, notice the comfort that the Bible provides in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17, which will be our last scripture. Again, 2 Corinthians 4, 17. For though the tribulation is momentary and light, it works out for us a glory that is of more and more surpassing greatness and is everlasting. Although it's not easy, with Jehovah's help, we have to make sure that no matter what tribulation we're facing right now, it does not block our view of the reward. Our reward is everlasting. When we're in Jehovah's new system, when God's kingdom is finally ruling on the earth, all of the memories of the struggles that we're facing now will disappear. Because at that time, we will see all the blessings that Jehovah provides to those that choose to remain a part of the world.